Electricity is fundamentally important to modern living. It lights up cities and powers up industries. Electricity makes almost everything possible in daily life, from emergency response to modern medical care in health facilities. On a small scale, it powers cars, computers, and cools or heats buildings. Electricity also fuels the Iranian economy and is easily one of the most important assets of the human race. Oh, how's it going? Welcome to another edition of Bazaar. Today we are turning the spotlight on electricity. It dramatically changed the lives of all human beings, and it plays a central role in nearly everything we do. So we wanted to see how the market of this widely available resource is faring nationally and internationally. We will also take a look at how electricity has kept the Iranian economy charged. Let's zap right into this Bazaar. We decided to visit the electrical power plant of Hengam. It is located near Iran's southernmost port city of Bandar Abbas in Hormozgan province. It was constructed using domestic resources with the exception of certain imported specialized machinery. This facility is situated on 42 hectares of land and came online within the last year. The project was a joint venture with Iran's Thermal Power Plants Holding Company and Mabna Group. It was created under the specialized production of Thermal Electrical Power Company. This combined cycle power plant recently launched its second and third units. Its gas unit has the capacity to produce over 300 megawatts of power, and the steam unit produces over 290 megawatts. Altogether, Hengam is able to add around 900 megawatts to Iran's electricity grid. Combined cycle power plants are said to produce around 50% more electricity than a traditional simple cycle plant. It also has the benefit of using the same fuel sources. After all its units are completed, this power plant will be able to supply electricity to 150,000 homes in Hormozgan province.
ببینید ما صادرات انرژیمون رو که با کشورهای همسایه برقرار داریم، چون ارتباط شبکه برق ما با همه کشورهای همسایه‌مون پاکستان، افغانستان، ترکمنستان، ارمنستان، آذربایجان، ترکیه، عراق و از طریق آذربایجان به زودی با خود روسیه برقرار خواهد بود و هیچ مشکلی برای تبادل انرژی نداریم. برای به اصطلاح دریافت وجهش هم به هر طریق تاکنون سعی کردیم که منابع رو دریافت بکنیم به طرق مختلف. این کار رو هم در حال انجام هستیم.
There are 4 power plants off the Persian Gulf Coast in Hormozgan province. In general, thermal power plants in this area have a combined installed capacity of nearly 4,000 megawatts. There are even plans to increase this amount to 7,000 megawatts in the next 3 years. And I'm sure many would agree technology is the golden key to expanding electrical energy production capacities. This combined cycle power plant is one of the first facilities to use Iran's homegrown F-class turbines. The F-class is a gas turbine with high performance and low power generation costs. Some of the other benefits of this technology are its service-friendly design and long intervals between inspections. Also, this turbine has optimized flow and cooling systems which increase much-needed efficiency. When all phases of this power plant are completed, it will have a production efficiency rate of 59%. That's the highest for a power plant with F-class turbines. Figures from Iran's Ministry of Energy show that most electrical power plants in Iran have an efficiency rate of around 39%. That's because Iran gets its electricity from aging thermal plants. The government has outlined plans to improve the aging electricity infrastructure. Under regulations drawn by the Energy Ministry, new power plants must have an efficiency rate of over 58%. This means that new technology needs to be incorporated in order to phase out inefficient power plants.
ما الان با روسیه و ارمنستان و قرقیزستان و عرض شود حضورتون که چند کشور بلاروس، چند کشور دیگر در پیمان اقتصادی اوراسیا هستیم. البته الان موقت، ولی انشاءالله تا کمتر از 2 سال دیگه به شکل دائم. و وقتی وارد این به اصطلاح پیمان منطقه‌ای میشیم، انتظار این هست که این مبادلات بیشتر بشه و سرمایه‌گذاری‌ها بیشتر بشه.
As Iran's industries grow, they create a huge demand for electricity. Presently, the country meets all of its electricity requirements. But how will the country continuously meet its growing electricity needs? Well, the government has plans to increase the number of power plants in order to meet these projected needs. This sure does call for large investments and new technology. One way to understand this process is to look at an example of how power plant projects are funded and who the stakeholders are. The Bazaar Specialized Productions of Thermal Electrical Power Company is the parent company of Hengam Power Plant, but that's not the only power plant it is moving forward with. It also has another project in the works. Its Sirik power plant, which is also in Hormozgan province, will have a nominal capacity of 1400 megawatts. This mega project will be situated on a 200-hectare spread of land. Also, it will be constructed with the help of the Iranian Ministry of Energy and Iran's thermal power plant holding company. The project is a joint venture with the Russian Ministry of Energy.
کشور روسیه هم در صنعت برق ایران پیش از انقلاب حضور داشته، نیروگاه‌هایی رو ساخته و طبیعی است که در این شرایط که ما به ویژه با محدودیت منابع درآمدی مواجه بودیم و از طرفی میبایست برای رشد تولید تدارک ظرفیت تولید انرژی رو میدیدیم، از دریافت این وام باید استقبال میکردیم که این گونه شد.
This project is worth around $1.6 billion. The majority of the funding will come in the form of a credit line loan granted by Russia. Also, executive operations of this project will be done by Iranian contractors. Russian contractors will bring the equipment necessary for the project and benefit from domestically manufactured equipment.
اولین اهمیت اون همین هست که ما یک نیروگاه حرارتی رو در داخل کشورمون ایجاد می‌کنیم. اهمیت دومش این هستش که این با اعتبار کشور روسیه طبق توافقی که دو رئیس جمهور جمهوری اسلامی ایران جناب آقای دکتر روحانی و جناب آقای پوتین انجام دادن، این پروژه شکل گرفته است. اما مهمتر از این نکته است که در اصل آغاز این پروژه خیلی از ناملایماتی که وجود داشت برای اینکه این خط اعتباری جذب بشود، این ناملایمات برطرف شد و مسیر حرکت ما با سرعت بیشتری در تبادلات اقتصادی به پیش خواهد رفت.
The overall goal is to increase Iran's power grid and export surplus power once this power plant comes online. This firm has overcome many challenges in order to appreciate its successes.
به طور کلی در دنیا استفاده از فرصت‌ها برای خلق ثروت رایج هست. هر جا یک مزیت‌هایی داره و بقیه سعی می‌کنن از اون مزیت‌ها استفاده کنن. مثلا فرض کنید در زمینه انرژی‌های تجدیدپذیر ما یکی از بالاترین شدت‌های تابش رو داریم و طبیعی سرمایه‌گذارهای خارجی علاقه دارن بیان به ازای 1 متر مربع پنل خورشیدی که در مرکز ایران نصب بشه انرژی بیشتری نصیبشون میشه تا در جای دیگه و اگر نبود این تحریم ها که موانعی رو ایجاد میکرد برای سرمایه گذارای خارجی و امریکا اونها رو در معرض تحریم ثانویه قرار میداد، طبیعتاً ما تو این عرصه میتونستیم در سالهای گذشته چه در باد چه در خورشید به اصطلاح توسعه قابل ملاحظه‌ای داشته باشیم.
Iran is the 14th largest producer of electricity in the world, believe it or not. The nation is the 17th largest consumer of electricity among countries worldwide. In recent years, Iran has completely supplied its domestic electric energy needs. The country produces more than its domestic needs with roughly 115% productions. This seems like a lot, but in fact, there is a lot of power going to waste during production. Not good. Around 20% of power produced in Iran's national grid is lost through transmission and distribution. That's according to Tavanir, which is the power management, distribution and transmitting company of Iran. But with overhaul programs to correct the aging power infrastructure, power wastage has been reduced by 10%. Iran has an installed power production capacity of well over 85,000 megawatts. Most of the electricity demand is met with thermal power plants that have been operating for decades. The government has outlined plans to increase electric energy productions to over 100,000 megawatts by 2025. The Ministry of Energy predicted that around 20,000 megawatts needs to be added to the capacity of power grids. Several programs have been implemented to gradually convert traditional plants into more efficient combined cycle units to meet this goal. Somewhere around 90% of electrical energy is produced from fossil fuel sources. Natural gas accounts for 70% of the total power generation in the country. Nuclear and non-hydro renewable power make up the remaining fuel sources used to generate electricity in Iran. You might be interested to know that Iran exports electricity to neighboring countries. In one such case, Iran has a sharing agreement with Armenia. Excess energy is being exported to Armenia to be credited before being bought back off them when needed. This brings substantial economic benefits too. These power exchange and bilateral contracts are in addition to Iran's exporting markets. Based on figures from Iran's Ministry of Energy, over 430 million kilowatt hours of electricity were exported to neighboring countries last year. Iran has supplied electricity to nearly all countries that it shares a land border with. In 2020, Iran's annual electricity exports increased by nearly 30%. Statistics from the Energy Ministry show electricity exports do vary depending on the hot and cold seasons of the year. Iran has been developing its renewable energy productions to diversify the country's power generation away from fossil fuel sources. Even though Iran has rich natural gas and oil reserves, these reserves are limited. Also, electricity generated from fossil fuels creates a degree of pollution in the environment, which Iran aims to reduce. Well, with all this electrical power around us, I shall switch off my lights for several minutes as my good friend and colleague takes us out on another adventure. The show's all yours.
For almost all of us, it's hard to think of a world without electricity. It's always there whenever we flip a switch or plug in a cord or watch a program on TV, but electricity has to travel a long way to get to our house. It's usually transmitted and distributed through overhead power lines, which consist of one or more conductors. The material of choice used in these overhead conductors used to be copper in earlier days, but aluminium has taken its place thanks to its lighter weight and lower cost. But how and where are these aluminium conductors made?
From A to Z of these overhead conductors are made here. This company is called Puyaniru. It has the highest production capacity in the field of overhead conductors in Iran. It's located in an industrial zone next to Kermanshah, which is a city in the western part of Iran. Now it's time to go inside and find out more about the production procedure and other materials that are being manufactured here. Let's get inside.
Puya Power was first registered as a knowledge-based company. It took its first steps towards producing high-voltage aluminum conductors. Today, the plant is one of the largest and most advanced production units in Iran, with a production capacity of 72,000 tons per year. Except for the aluminum ingots and steel, which are the only two raw materials that they buy from Iranian manufacturers, other materials needed for the production line are made here. This is where aluminum rods are manufactured. The process begins in the main melting furnace, where high-purity ingots with a minimum purity of 99.5% are melted through continuous casting, and the resultant melt enters a holding furnace. The liquid is subsequently fed into a copper ring. As it spirals on the conveyor and with the help of water, it cools off and forms aluminum crystal. Next, crystals are guided into a rolling mill where their thickness is reduced to 9.5 or 12.5 millimeters, and at this point they are referred to as aluminum rods. In the final stage of the process, the rods are sent to a coiler machine to be wound. The facility normally produces 4 tons of aluminum rod per hour and can produce up to 180 tons of rod per day.
در این شرکت خوشبختانه از تولید ساخت قرقره فلزی، چوبی تا تولید گالوانیزه، کلد، کمپوزیت، تولید راد، بافت، کل خط 0 تا 100 انواع سیم‌های هوایی رو با آخرین تکنولوژی تو این شرکتمون در واقع در حال تولیده. این زنجیره تکمیل باعث میده که ما در زمان بسیار کوتاه بتونیم در واقع جواب مشتری هامون رو بدیم و با بهترین کیفیت این کار رو انجام بدیم، چون ناظر هستیم بر تولید 0 تا 100 این مجموعه.
Steel is used as core in these conductors. The steel core is cladded with aluminum, which compared to galvanized core has some advantages. The aluminum clad offers improved ampacity and resistance to corrosion. These conductors are a better replacement for galvanized steel conductors where corrosive conditions are severe, such as coastal cities and polluted industrial zones.
Wire is cleaned here through both chemical and ultrasonic treatments. To clean the steel core goes through heating part in which it is heated up. Then the aluminum rod and the heated core go inside the cladding machine, whereby the aluminum rod is melted down by high pressure. And once it is melted down, it goes around the steel core. The steel core, which is now cladded, passes through the water cooling part, and at the end, aluminum-clad steel wire is produced.
The plant is unparalleled in the region and has competitive edge over its domestic rivals in that it is equipped with state-of-the-art machinery and unique test stations.
از نظر کیفیت هیچ چیزی از هیچ کشور اروپایی کم نداریم. یعنی شاید بعضی چیزامون هم سرتر از کشورهای اروپایی باشه. واقعا مجموعی داریم، میگم به جرئت میگم که توی دنیا منحصر به فرده، چون حجم تولید ما و نوع تولید ما و دستگاه‌هایی که داریم همه خاصن و این دستگاه‌های خاص یه جا هیچ کجا جمع نشدن. با همین دستگاهی که من در کنارش قرار گرفتم که یکی از برندهای معتبر دستگاه کشش فولاد هست، مفتول کلد شده، کشیده میشه.
Steel and aluminum's tensile strengths are different, and because of that, if you draw them together, the aluminum clad should break or peel. But here, using high-tech drawing machine, they have solved this problem. Let's take a look. Sajid, would you please turn this machine on? Thank you.
One of the high-tech machines that is utilized in the production line is the strander. This machine twists wires together into a cable. Depending on the use of the conductor, whether it is going to be used for long distance or short distance transmission, a different, say, formula is used to indicate how many threads of aluminum is needed to be wound around the clad steel core.
مرحله بعدی آمدیم دوباره کابل پرظرفیت رو در واقع راه‌اندازی کردیم که باعث شده ظرفیت رو تا 1.5 برابر افزایش بدیم. مرحله فاز بعدی آمدیم رو کابل پرظرفیت کمپوزیت که تا حد 2 برابر با همون وزن و با همون قطر 2 برابر رو انتقال بدیم.
Said conductors can operate at much higher temperatures with lower sag.
This is Advanced Test Site, and this company is among few countries in the region that are equipped with such a site. This test compares how a high-capacity conductor and a normal conductor respond to electric current. After some time, the normal conductor bends low in the middle, but the high-capacity conductor stays just firm. Now let's take a look.
Even the reels in which these wires are wound are made inside this facility. Okay, now what happens when these reels are loaded?
Well, our journey ends here, and these, as you can see, are the final products. These wheels are loaded and ready to be picked up by the truck, and there it goes, and be delivered to the customers. And one day, it may just so happen that the electricity that you use goes through these conductors and reaches your place.
Brilliant stuff as always. Now let's take a look at some of the news and trends in the electrical industry and its related trades. Peak electricity consumption has hit the country earlier than last year as the weather warms up substantially ahead of the summer. In early May, Iran's thermal power plants holding company said thermal power plants have increased their output by 3,500 megawatts. Though this is not enough to cover the 10,000 megawatt shortage that it had predicted for this year's peak consumption. The managing director, Mohsen Tarztalab, said conversion of gas-fired power plants to combined cycle ones and upgrading units are some of the overhaul programs underway. 69,000 megawatts will be added by the summer after overhaul operations. The National Iranian Gas Company has pledged to reduce harmful emissions in this industry by 70% in the next 3 years. That's good to know. Already, around 180 million tons of greenhouse gases were reduced last year. The main reason for this decline was the expansion of gas supply across the country. It is said that natural gas emits 50 to 60% less carbon dioxide and heat-trapping gases. The National Gas Company also said it would step up efforts to collect and process associated petroleum gas in southern Iran. The collection of APG from oil and gas fields helps safeguard the environment. Iranian entrepreneurs are striving to take hold of their share of the national renewable energy market by harnessing energy from the ocean. Now we're talking. Entrepreneurs in the field of electrical energy are taking advantage of government incentives to begin these projects. There are several methods to capture energy this way. One is through tidal power caused by gravitational pulls of the sun and moon. Another is wave power, which collects energy from wind waves. Wave power generation is still not a widely used commercial technology. A lot more research is required for such projects to become operational in Iran. And so we have reached the end of this episode. Remember, you can get in touch with us through email or Instagram. We love hearing from you, so definitely drop us a message or an idea and we'll get back to you. I've been Samson Sees you in the next Bazaar.